And when it is repaired, you'll find that your relationship is even better than before. That's the secret. Your relationship gets deeper and better as you repair that relationship.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fascinating Womanhood channel, where we talk about all things that have to do with femininity and building strong relationships. I'm Cherry Lynn and I'm here with Dixie, Andelin, and Forsyth. Hi.
Hi.
So today we are talking about what to do if you backslide. So we've had a lot of ladies say that they have found Fascinating Womanhood recently and it's made huge changes in their marriage and relationships, but then they kind of feel discouraged because all of a sudden it seems like they're arguing again and they're in a bad place and they feel like giving up. So what do you think is going on with these ladies?
The honest truth is everybody backslides because no one is perfect and you're not going to be, and that's okay. That's what you do when you backslide.
So what you're saying backsliding is the woman is practicing Fascinating Womanhood really consistently and she's giving it her all and then she's making some mistakes. Is that what you're saying it is?
Going back to the old patterns of the way you deal with things, the way you get into arguments and the way you maybe get a little naggy or bossy or whatever it is. This is a lifelong process. Like, let's say that all you've ever eaten growing up is just really bad food, really cheap food, essentially like crumbs. You've never had enough. And then you live with somebody and they are a fabulous cook and they make this great food. It's going to be hard, if not impossible, for you to go back to eating bologna sandwiches on cheap bread when you've had something really fabulous. When a man is finally getting some of his needs met and he's feeling better, to go back to the way it was. It's not so much that he was satisfied before, but he's sort of used to it, like that, if that's all he's ever had. But if you give him more, which you want, because you want that great relationship, and then you go back to the old you, the old way of doing things, he's not going to be okay with it. He's not going to just slide back into the old, I'm used to it.
Yes, especially if it's quick. I know it's different with everyone, but some women say as soon as 2 weeks of reading Fascinating Womanhood, some women say, oh my gosh, I can't even believe it's been 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, everything is so much better. Boy, you're probably going to expect to backslide a little bit because that's incredibly fast. And I mean, I guess it's different journey for everyone, but that's a really, he's not going to trust this new you or what you said earlier, this amazing chef cooking him this amazing food, giving him this amazing, he's going to be like, is this real?
And we have to give ourselves a break because it takes time to form new habits and patterns. So that you don't think about it, because life is stressful. We all know that. And when something happens, it's really common to go back to the old way you dealt with things before you think about it. And then pretty soon, I hear ladies say they're arguing. So that means there's stress. So they're going back to the old way that they dealt with stress, which doesn't work anymore. It wasn't like I keep saying working. It isn't working ever. But they're used to it. And that's all they've ever had. If you give somebody something better, they're not going to want to go back to the old you. And you don't want to go back to the old you. So the question is, what do you do when you backslide? Because I do. And you probably do. I think.
Absolutely.
I think, oh no, I shouldn't have done that. I should have
What have I done?
Yeah, I do. Fortunately, it's not ever real serious because I've been in these patterns for many years, but I do things regularly that I think, I shouldn't have done that. In fact,
okay, so we're going to talk about our 5. There's more than these 5, but we just narrowed it down to our 5 favorite ways to stay consistent with Fascinating Womanhood. So you don't backslide as much, or you don't backslide and feel so discouraged.
The problem is if you feel so discouraged that you don't want to keep trying. And that's what we're here for, to encourage you. This is normal. Keep working on it. It's like playing the piano. If you want to play an instrument, any instrument, or learn anything, when you first do it, you're going to make tons of mistakes. And everybody does. The key is to keep going. And that's where people who learn to do something well may have a difference with someone who who gives up. They just don't give up.
Jumping into number 1.
Stay connected with Fascinating Womanhood. That means studying, staying in touch with us. That's one of the reasons we're here, to help you. Watch our videos, read the books, work on the workbooks. If you need a class, take a class, and stay in touch. Instagram, social media.
Yeah, and I know this might sound like we're trying to sell things and we're trying to promote and plug ourselves, but this is actually what we do. This is actually what the teachers, the Fascinating Womanhood teachers do. We all stay connected to each other. Even us putting work into these videos helps us in our personal relationships to stay connected to Fascinating Womanhood. So we're bringing it up because it's what we do. I think our Instagram page is really helpful because you do videos on there that are really inspiring, and we have quotes on there. And then our Facebook group is so helpful, because it's a place where you can hear tips and share them. And it's, I mean, you can even do it anonymously. So if you're feeling like you're backsliding, just try to check the page every day and read the threads. You don't even have to say anything, and it'll help you to learn.
Right. And not only that, but some of these groups don't have, the person who leads them haven't actually written a book about it, so you can read it on your own and study it. It's got everything in there. Having a book about it is even better, because you can do that. You can have an ebook or a physical book and do it on your own time and read it over and over. Number 2, you can accept mistakes in yourself. Some of you are probably like me, and probably, I think, Cherry, you're like this too, very hard on yourself. Okay. This is normal to backslide. It's normal with everything you do. If you want to be a good cook, you're gonna make some lousy meals sometimes. You're gonna do it. It's just, I made bread with my daughter-in-law the other day, and it was a recipe I'd never made before. It was a rye bread. She's Russian. She wanted to make this authentic Russian rye bread, and I thought the recipe looked a little bit, this doesn't seem right, but I'd never made it before, so I always give it a chance. It didn't feel like it worked out. And I've been baking for 50 years, more than that. That bread did not turn out. I can be hard on myself, but in order to be great at baking, sewing, anything, art, you have to make tons of mistakes. Bob always says to me, he used to say to you kids sometimes, the difference between me and you is I've made a lot more mistakes. And so that's what we're all going to do. So accept it, forgive yourself.
Yes.
And the third one, a self-care check. This helps you to see how you're doing. What upset you? What made you backslide in the first place? Looking inward at yourself, what happened here? Usually when people get into arguments, maybe every time, it's there's one of the emotions underneath it is fear. And remember, anger is not a primary emotion. It's a secondary one. Fear is usually under anger.
Self-care specifically is really helpful when you're trying to stay consistent, because it keeps you calm. It's a self-esteem boost. It allows you to walk away if things are getting heated. And I've heard so many ladies say, my husband is maybe going into his man cave, or he's not talking, or he's putting up a wall. I don't know what to do. I've heard so many ladies give this tip to each other. Just go paint your nails, or go do something, take a bubble bath, do something for yourself, relax. And I think if you are never, and this is something I struggle with a lot, because I find that self-care is hard to squeeze in. But when I do finally get that self-care, I kind of it almost is like refocusing your lenses and going, oh, I actually don't know why that upset me so much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you become more balanced again. Self-care is really important, and being kind to yourself and figuring out what just happened. And remember, if it's arguing, because a lot of ladies say we were arguing. When you hear your husband maybe raise his voice and say something forceful to you, he's not going to hear what you say back. Not really, maybe technically, it's not going to sink in. If he's doing that, whatever you say, unless it's something like, you're right, or you can say,
yeah, that's true.
I can see that you're upset, and I would never mean to upset you. In other words, if you diffuse it, he will hear that. But if you want to get your point across, you never will when he's like that. Yes. So you think, oh, this isn't going to work. It isn't going to work, and it never works that way. It only works in calmer situations. So the next one is one of my favorites, because I need it. so much is verbally processing. That means for women, the way our brains are, we talk about in Timeless, is everything is connected to everything else. We're kind of in contact with all the stressors in our life at all times. Verbally process it helps us when we talk about how we feel to be able to say, oh, as I talk about that, I realize that this makes sense and this doesn't make sense. And so verbally processing helps us to get to that level place again. Mm-hmm. The only catch is go to a confidant, somebody you can trust, but do not trash talk your husband. And there's more than one reason for this. You don't ever want to betray his confidence, number one. But the other thing is the real problem is not him because you can't do anything about it. The problem is if you talk about your feelings and what you need to do. Or if you don't have anyone to talk to, write it down. Or talk to somebody long distance or something like that. So verbally process to yourself, to somebody else, about how you feel, not blaming. And then when you do that, you can make more sense of it.
I think not everyone's the same. This isn't going to be as important to everyone. It's not a one size fits all kind of thing. I know I desperately need to verbally process my feelings, and it is hard for me. And I love what you're saying about writing it down. I think that's really helpful. But some men need to verbally process. And I think it's just about recognizing how much of that you need. I think a lot of ladies don't recognize that they just, oh my gosh, I don't know why I feel so much better now that I just talked to you about that. Why do I feel so much better? Sometimes it can be a huge, huge lift off of you to just be able to talk. And then you can go back to your relationship and feel like you have this patient.
You can verbally process on our group, but just don't just accept, just talk about how you feel and not he's blaming. Because that doesn't solve anything. Now, the last one is in some ways the most important one, is to have a repair function. Bob always says, and it's true, that any good relationship has to have a repair function in it. Because both parties are going to make mistakes. The reason Bob and I work so well together is because I need his strengths for my weaknesses. And I don't guess I see him as having many weaknesses, but we are very different, and so we approach things differently, and I appreciate that, but that means that we don't agree on everything, and we have more debates. So when you have a repair function, that means to me that when you realize you did something that you wish you hadn't done, for instance, yelling or something like that, apologize. It's actually very simple. Sincerely apologize, and not the I'm sorry if I hurt you, because you can see that you have. Apologize for what you know you did. And for me, you have to find your own way of saying it. I say, I would never deliberately hurt you ever. I'm really sorry. I'm just not there yet. And so sincerely apologizing. It doesn't work to just pretend nothing happened and move. Repair what has happened. And some relationships with friends or associates are like that too. Have you ever had a situation where somebody really hurt your feelings and you didn't really know what to do, so you just did nothing? I mean, I've done that too. It damages your relationship. If you don't live with somebody, you can kind of live with it, but it isn't great. The real bad damages, like you had a big fight or something, and then you're not talking to your cousin or your sister. And when it is repaired, you'll find that your relationship is even better than before. That's the secret. Your relationship gets deeper and better as you repair that relationship.
I think the repair function is one of those things where you really have to work on it. It can take years I'm sure that yours probably took years to develop, and now you have a system that works. So it's really whatever works for you. But I do want to ask right before we close, a lot of ladies that are going through the backsliding, because we just went through our five ways, say when they're backsliding, they say, this is really frustrating. Why do I have to do all this work? This is hard for me. I don't think I should be the one to be doing all of this. So what do you have to say to those ladies that are in that spot where they're saying, you know what, I'm not going to apologize. I want him to apologize, or I want him to start doing some of these things. The classic question, of course, you get asked that a lot.
Well, the answer is you're right. But you cannot change another person, and you're not going to. And not only that, men, and this isn't like we say 100%, but more often, much more often than women, they're not in touch with it as quickly as we are. And you cannot be a mother to him and teach him what he has to do for you, because he won't appreciate it and he won't change. To be quite honest, you wouldn't like it if someone made you their project. None of us like it. The only ones we can work on is us. And the good news is we can do that. And we have so much influence. Femininity has so much innate influence and power. It's a different kind of power than masculine power, that you really can, through gentle, charming, and patient things, turn things around by working on yourself. It's amazing.
Just my advice for the ladies that are saying, well, he should apologize first. You're going to be waiting forever. So what's your alternative? To just wait and not get anything and be mad and then argue more? Or should you just swallow the pride and just do it? I think that's kind of I think we get this reputation of this master-slave relationship, and that is just not the case. It's more about focusing on yourself, because that's what you can do. You can't change somebody.
The truth is, this master-slave thing, that doesn't create lifelong love affairs.
Yeah.
Men don't want somebody they can push around and just be their servant. That isn't attractive. Not at all. We're not going for that. We're going for an extraordinary relationship. It's easier for them to put up with a not so great relationship longer than us. And we know what to do and how to do it in our own way. And our changing is good for us, because we need to deal with our part of things. And when we do, it often has a great influence on others around us, including the men that we love.
This subject is really, really big. So for anybody out there we actually did an entire video about this question. And the only reason we wanted to include it in this one is because a lot of women that are backsliding ask it. So if you really want to learn more about why Fascinating Womanhood talks so much about women changing and we don't talk about men changing, you should definitely watch that video. Okay, well, thank you so much for all of your valuable advice. Thank you so much for talking about this with us today. And for everyone watching, thanks for coming to see us. And don't forget to check out all the links attached to this video, places you can buy our books, you can buy our workbooks, all the places you can find us on social media. And we are here every week, so don't forget to click subscribe so you get notifications when we have new videos come out. We will see you next time. Bye.
And bye.